Welcome back to my channel. We are absolutely 100% ignoring the fact that it has been 2 months since I sat down and did a wrap up, even though I said in my last video that I wanted to do one every month. So I'm here to do another wrap up, another video chatting about all the books that I've read since the last wrap up, which I filmed in March, posted in April. It is now May. So I have about 2 months worth of books to catch you guys up on. I've read almost 40 books since I filmed the last wrap up. When I say almost 40, I'm halfway through the 40th book right now. So I've read 39 books since I last sat down and we chatted about this. I am not going to go through and talk about every single book that I have read. I am not talking about all 39 books. I could not do that. I'm sorry, I do not want to be here for another 2 hours like last time. So, we're just doing a little recap, a little revision, a little reflection. We're gonna go through, we're gonna do it the same as last time. We're gonna start in March, go through April, finish with May, and hopefully this is quick and fun and breezy. Let's discuss. Let's go. Surprisingly, March, I didn't read that many books. I read 8 more, not including the 3 that I talked about in my last wrap up. 4 of those books were for the backlist readathon. I didn't vlog anything for that readathon, but I did partake in it. That was hosted by a bunch of really lovely booktubers. I'll leave all their links in the description. Essentially, you just read books that were published in 2019 or earlier. So I read 2 physical books. I read Sputnik Sweetheart by Haruki Murakami. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it, but it did just feel a little bit too short for me. On the other hand, I read The Goldfish by Donna Tartt, which I gave a 2 out of 5 stars. This was too long, and disappointing. Extremely disappointing. I really didn't like this. There was nothing wrong with the book itself, which is why I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars instead of a 1 out of 5 stars, but this is 800 pages I am never getting back, and I'm so mad. I also read 2 ebooks, The Poppy War and The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. I fucking loved these. Oh my god. These were so good. So this is a fantasy series set in alternate Asia. I believe R.F. Kuang is Chinese American, and she wanted to write a series inspired by Chinese history, which is really, really cool. So the story follows Rin, who is a peasant girl from the south of Nikan, I think it's called. In the first book, The Poppy War, Rin is studying to take an empire-wide test to try and get into these academies all around the empire, and she manages to score herself a place in Synagard, the most elite military academy in the whole empire. So the Poppy War mostly follows Rin as she leaves and goes to Synagard to study, and her time at the academy, where she starts to take a particular interest in shamanism, which leads her to learn a lot more than a lot of the other students at the academy. I'm not going to say much more, but the book does eventually delve into like a war story. It does involve a war, as you can probably guess from the title, The Poppy War. There is war. But this was just so interesting. The story, the world, the characters, they are all so well developed. I just love the characters so much. The characters actually made me cry in The Dragon Republic. I shed tears over these books. I'd actually been meaning to read these for a few months now. My friend Dell has been like begging me to read these, and I am just so mad that I didn't read them earlier, because it was just so good. Definitely some of the best fantasy I've read in a really long time. If you're interested, these are the first 2 books in the series. The 3rd book is set to come out later this year, so if you're interested, now is definitely a good time to maybe look into reading them. The next book I want to talk about was the book club book for March. We read Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Thalia Hibbett, which came out last year, I believe. This is an adult romance. It follows Chloe, who suffers from a chronic illness, and she's trying to do more with her life, and so she writes a list, like a bucket list, of things that she wants to do. And essentially she comes to ask Red, who is the handyman of the building that she lives in, to help her complete the list. They become close, they start catching feelings, all that good stuff. This wasn't a favorite adult romance of mine, but it had really good diverse representation, and it was just fun and easy to read. I read this at the start of quarantine and it was just exactly what I wanted, something light and easy. So it was enjoyable, but overall it was just pretty average, so I gave that a 3 out of 5 stars. I also read another romance in March that was The Undercover Bromance, is it? The Undercover Bromance by Lisa K. Adams, the second book in the Bromance Book Club series. This series is just such a laugh. It is so comical, it is so lighthearted. The overall concept is that in Nashville, like, the hottest guys and like the most eligible bachelors have come together and they've started their own book club where they read romance books so they can like learn about romance and like get tips on like how to be good with the ladies. It just sounds so fucking stupid, but like it's hilarious. The first book in the series is a second chance romance. So the relationship is between an already married couple, whereas this one follows Liv and Mac. They're mentioned in the first book, but they don't really have a relationship. They don't know each other too well. Liv doesn't want a relationship, and Mac is very popular with the ladies, but he can't seem to keep a relationship going for more than a few months. And over the book, they become really good friends, and it's a romance book. I don't think I liked this one as much as I liked the first one, but like honestly, if you're just looking for something silly and fun and easy, I would definitely recommend the series overall. This book does deal with sexual assault. It's not something that happens to the main characters, it's something that they witness, but it is still a very central point to the story. Because of this, I think this one did feel a little bit more serious than the first one, but I still gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, next. So out of the 39 books that I've read, only 2 of them so far have been worthy of a 1-star rating. The first one was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. I tried vlogging my experience while I was reading this, but it was just so painful. It was so... I have thought about reviewing this, like dedicating a whole video to talking about this, but I'm still unsure if that's something I actually want to do. As you can see, I had a lot of thoughts, but I honestly don't know if I can be like bothered. So if you don't know, Sarah J Maas is a very popular young adult author, and this is her first adult fantasy novel. It follows a half-fae called Bryce, who finds herself caught up in this investigation after a lot of her friends are murdered right at the start of the story. That is not a spoiler, it is literally on the blurb. She gets paired up with this fallen angel named Hunt, who is kind of given to her as like protection, like a bodyguard, but is also working the case, so he's kind of like, so they end up like working together to try and solve the case. There were lots of things I didn't like about this book, obviously, but my main issue I would have to say is that it's just like it's too long. It didn't have to be this long, but it was, and why, I couldn't tell you. It's like almost 800 pages. The epilogue takes it to 799 pages. It is like basically 800 pages long, and it easily could have just been cut in half and it would have been the exact same story. If you do want me to go through and discuss this in more detail, let me know, but for now, that's all I'm gonna say about this. And then the last book I read in March was the next book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series by J.R. Ward. So over March, April, May, I read 3 more of these books, books 9 to 11. I gave book 9 5 out of 5 stars. I gave book 10 3 out of 5 stars, and I gave book 11 5 out of 5 stars. Book 11, Lover at Last, I think is like my favorite, up there with number 3. It has the first male-male relationship in the series, and this relationship has been like building up since book 5 or something crazy like that. So at last we finally get to see it, and it was just so satisfying to see that. It made me happy. So just keep in mind that when I'm talking about the books in April and May, I am not going to mention the 2 that I didn't read in March. If that makes sense? Yeah, you get it. So those were the 8 books I read in March. On to April, I read 25 books. That's when I read most of the books. I read 9 books for video, so we're not going to talk about them, but just know that I read 9 books for videos. So most of them were for the Owls Readathon that happened over April, which is hosted by G over at Book Roast. I'll leave a link to her channel down in the description. And I do have one vlog up on my channel, and I have another vlog for the Owls coming soon. So most of April was taken up by this huge reread marathon that I did. I went and read all of the Harry Potter books in like 3 days. I took part in the Harry Potter 24-hour readathon, which was hosted by Chloe, Caitlin, and Jamie. I'll leave a link to their channels down below as well. That was super fun, and that was why I went and reread the whole series. And then I also went ahead and reread the Selection series by Kara Cass, only the original trilogy, not books 4 and 5, which I think are like a next generation kind of thing. If you weren't aware, in April, the TV adaptation, I think, was announced for these books. So I went back and I reread them to see how I felt, and definitely didn't like them as much as I did when I read them when I was like 14. And honestly, I am dreading the adaptation because it has so much potential to be really fun, but I think it's going to be terrible. I'm calling it now. I think it's going to be bad. But those were 10 books that I reread in April. And then I read 4 more romances that I'm going to just briefly talk about. I read a random romance by a random author. It was just something that came up on Goodreads, so I gave it a shot. It was called Liar by Fiona Cole, and there was also a companion novella that went along with it that I read. This was an age gap romance meant to be kind of taboo. It was honestly just fine. It was quite mediocre. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I also read another taboo romance by the queen herself, Miss Penelope Douglas. I read Bully, which is a bully romance. I mean, do I really, This is one of her older releases. I believe it was published in 2014. And I read this because one of the books that I read for one of the videos was a bully romance, and I realized I haven't actually read many bully romances, so I read this to have a comparison. I gave Bully 3 out of 5 stars. I liked it, but it just wasn't not one of my favorites of Penelope Douglas's books, so 3 out of 5 stars, and I liked it more than the other bully romance book that I read, but we are not going to talk about that. And then the last romance that I read was one that I actually really liked. It was kind of surprising because I haven't heard anyone talk about this book really. I have heard about the author Jennifer L Armentrout. I believe she's quite popular in the romance genre, but I loved this book. It was Wait for You, and again, I think this was published way back in 2014, maybe 2011. It's an old book. It's about a girl named Avery who is starting university in a new town. She, immediately you know that she is running from something. She's left her hometown for a very specific reason. And at uni in this new town, she meets Cam, who is just best boy. He is just so sweet, and they become friends, they get really close, they start dating, all that good stuff. I honestly, I can't tell, I still can't tell if this is actually like a really good romance, or if I had just been reading so many like bully, taboo kind of romances, and so it was just really nice to have two main characters who liked each other and weren't like fighting or like being, you know, like, I can't tell, but either way, I loved it. It was exactly what I wanted to read. It was just so refreshing. And Cam is just so sweet. I loved Cam. This story does deal with sexual assault as well, but I was really just surprised by how much I liked this. I was giggling, I was like blushing, I was gasping out loud, like the whole shebang. This book was just. And then very briefly, I've only managed to read 7 books in May so far. I let myself take a break from reading for a bit. It was much needed, especially after reading all of those fucking books in April. But 2 of the 7 were for videos, so we're not going to talk about them. And the other 5 are literally all historical fiction romances by Lisa Kleypas. They were all part of the same series except for one of them, but it was kind of connected. The main series that I was reading was The Ravenels. This follows the Ravenel family, essentially as each individual member meets someone that they fall in love with and get married off with. Not to like spoil anything, but I honestly haven't read a historical fiction romance where the main characters don't end up together. So it's, I don't know, kind of a given. But then the one book that technically isn't part of the series is called The Devil in Winter, which is from the Wallflower series. But the 2 main characters in Devil in Winter do show up in the Ravenel series. They're quite important in some of the books, so they are connected. These were all very much different experiences. I gave 2 of these 2 stars. I think I gave one a 3-star, and then I gave 2 more 4 stars. My favorites were Devil in Spring and Devil in Winter. Loved them. And then my least favorite was Marrying Winterborn, which is the 2nd book in the series, and it was just so uncomfortable to read. I really didn't like that one. I couldn't. It was yeah, no, definitely not good, that one. Definitely not a fan. But overall, the series were pretty good. I haven't read too many historical fiction romances, so it's like I don't really have a lot to compare them to, so I don't know exactly how good they are, like genre wise, but I had fun reading them, and that's what matters. I just realized I've only read historical fiction books this month, except for the book that I'm reading now. The book that I'm reading now isn't historical fiction, but apart from that, all of the books I've read have been historical fictions. Very interesting. Not my usual go-to genre. Honestly, looking back, I feel like none of these books were planned. I didn't plan on reading any of these. I feel like they weren't even books that I wanted to read. But I mean, there were some good ones. So it's not like it was a total waste. Listen, if you are curious to know about all of the books that I've read over the past few months, you can go see all the books that I've read on Goodreads, and also the books that I'm currently reading, if you're interested. Also, go and add me as a friend, because I like seeing what everyone's reading. It makes me happy. I don't know if wrap-ups are going to be something that I continue to try and do, especially because I seem to be reading a whole lot. I don't know, I doubt that you guys really want to sit and hear me talk about books for a really long time. Wrap-ups, personally, are one of my favorite videos to watch in BookTube. I love watching wrap-ups. I love it. But I can totally see why other people wouldn't like that so much. I am thinking of trying to post more reading vlogs as a way of showing what I'm reading, like, more often. Maybe let me know down below if you would prefer seeing more reading vlogs or if you like the idea of doing wrap-ups. If I did continue doing wrap-ups, I would try and do them every month. I wouldn't leave it like this where I have like 39 books that I've read since the last one. But this was definitely briefer than the other wrap-up. I hope you don't mind. Definitely let me know in the comments if you want to see wrap-ups or more reading vlogs, or you can message me on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter. Just let me know. Come chat with me about it. But that is it. That is all the books that I read in the past 2-ish months. If you've read any really great books or even any really bad books, let me know. Let's discuss. I'd like to chat about that. Either way, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye!